your men can have love for the truckie. Beautiful minds, but we love getting ugly. Risk takers with a clover, man, we love getting lucky. You run, we chase fire, I love when it ducks me. Tones go off, house watch, read the address out. 1075, get up off the magic couch. 500 gallons prepared for the baddest drought. Who else you want on the way when disaster's out? Can't even get a little bit rattled when you enter with exit apparel. Mayday, member down, they'll drag you. You won't get this from every Tom, Dick, and Harold, but here's a view from the top floor with Mickey Farrell.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of A View from the Top Floor. Doing a street talk for you today here at the Spaniard on West 4th Street in the West Village of Manhattan. Cool little spot if you've never been in this neighborhood. It's a unique neighborhood to say the least, but this is a must stop when you're in the neighborhood. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the telephone company fire. When I'm actually recording this, you're seeing this on the Monday after, but only a few days ago was the 50th anniversary. Something to keep in mind with that fire, which many don't realize, is that every single member that responded to that fire, when I say every single, the first alarm companies, everyone is dead today. Every single one of them. And that's through occupational cancer. That's the first fire that put occupational cancer on the map for the fire service, and it's the second fire in New York City history that's the deadliest. Obviously, the impacts of September 11th, here we are 20 plus later, dealing with that almost, unfortunately, on a weekly basis. Wear your mask, man. That's about it. I know generational over time, it was cool to rip off your face piece during Overhaul. Not that it was cool, it was culture, right? I mean, two different things. I guess culture is kind of cool, and cool is culture, but just make sure you wear it. If you are the senior guy working, leave your face piece on longer than you have in the past. For one, it just sets a good example for the next firefighters coming into the job, but they're going to be trying to emulate what you do. Just as my generation and a lot of our generations, we emulated what the guys did before us, and those are the guys that romanticized the job for us. 3/4 boots, long coats, leather helmets. Unfortunately, we're seeing the impacts of that as well. So wear your face piece as long as you can during the overhaul. It's not the fires that our fathers and grandfathers fought. They're very, very different and toxic fires today. The New York Telephone Company fire, which nobody seems to want to talk about, but I did read it in the New York Times, and then it was removed. Miraculously just disappeared out of the New York Times. And that the lithium-ion battery fires, the smoke that's being produced from these fires is the exact same smoke and chemicals they found from the New York Telephone Company fire. Just put that in the back of your head during your overhaul stages, especially if you're dealing with lithium-ion batteries. Please, please, please leave your face piece on as long as possible. That all considered, let's talk a little bit about Overhaul. And I do think that Overhaul in general, not that we're cutting corners, but I think we're losing the traditions and honor of what Overhaul always was at one point. I think it marks the pride, tradition, and character of not only your company department, but who you are as an individual and the way you were brought up into the job. We still have to be able to pull all the lath down, all the sheetrock down, trim out all the windows. We've lost that. And I think, after giving this some serious thought, I think we've lost this because the introduction of thermal pane windows. And when that came in, it changed the game how we trim windows. For any of you that have sat in any of my presentations or my lectures, my classes over the years, I usually take a young kid in the crowd, I'll point at him and say, do you know what trimming windows are? Many times he doesn't and he's embarrassed. And I tell him, don't be embarrassed. That's just the way the job is now. It's truly, truly a lost art. And I think we lost this art mainly because when we introduced the thermal pane windows, we got away from single pane wood frame windows, very, very easy to overhaul. Now we have a steel cased window, double pane thick windows. When the fire's knocked down, now it's time to trim out the windows, do our quote-unquote overhaul. We have company officers, we have chief staff officers saying to stop vandalizing. They've lost sight of what it means, put company pride. I'm not saying we're vandalizing an apartment. It's safety. Ultimately, it's safety. By trimming out the windows and removing that broken window from the window frame, it's safety. It's also company pride and character. To remove these steel case windows, it's more physical. It's louder. So people always chalk that off to like, oh, guys are lazy today. That's why they're not trimming windows. I don't think that's the case because firemen want to work. Let your men work. They'll get the job done. I think that the command staff is harnessing our firemen and not letting them work because of fear of creating too much or more damage. There's a fine line between vandalism and doing your job. Trimming window is not vandalism. As loud as it may be, and sometimes as brute force it may look, we're trimming the window out, yes, for safety, but for company pride and approval. That's so important. We can't lose it. Fast forwarding going into the world of pulling ceilings now with lithium-ion batteries. The way we're doing things now, the sequential order of overhaul has changed quite a bit, where now we have to harness and gather all these cells that may have exploded or just scattered throughout the fire room. Not necessarily they started the fire, but they can be thermally loaded from a remote fire in that room or the building that has them in somewhat of runaway. We still have to pull all the ceilings down, the sheetrock, the lath, the plaster. Still have to trim the windows out. We have to make sure that room is squared away, ready as we're going to put in a new kitchen tomorrow, putting in a new bath the next day, or we're redoing the entire room that morning. That's the way it has to be. That's company pride. That's approval. And I see that we're losing it. What I also see is not letting our firefighters open up. Again, this comes to that fine line of vandalism versus experience versus letting your men work. Overhaul and opening up, two very, very different tasks on the fire ground. Overhaul is when the fire is knocked down, we have stopped any possible fire extension. Now we're in the overhaul stages, two different stages. When we're opening up, we are looking for fire travel, active fire travel. I'm seeing too many fires go from a one-room mattress fire to a multiple alarm because we're not opening up. You got to get in there. You got to open the floor above. Top floor fire, you got to get that cockloft open. You got to take a look. We can't rely on the thermal imaging camera. We're so quick to use that camera for so many things, and it's such an incredible tool. When it comes to overhaul, it's simply just an aid. It's not the tool that tells you where to open and when to open. It's just an aid to kind of size up what's going on, to maybe reconfirm what you've already opened. We have to open it up. Now let's also talk about odors. If you get a run, for example, let's use a multiple dwelling, and we'll use an H-type for example. You get a run in an H-type for an odor of smoke on the 6th floor, which would be the top floor. You smell wood burning, you can't find anything. You talk to the caller, how long have you smelt this odor? We smelt it for about an hour and a half at this point. We got nervous, so we called. We look around, we poke around, we can't find anything. You take up. Open up the cockloft. If you have an odor of smoke, you have to find out where that's coming from. Odor of electrical, odor of rubbish, odor of food. All different things that transcend what comes next. That sets the tempo. You have an odor of smoke, of wood burning. That building is on fire, and you have to find that. How do we find it on the top floor? It's relatively simple. Go to where the odor is the strongest, find a closet or a bathroom, somewhere where you have a door you can isolate that room. You go in, you poke a hole, you take a look. You have fire in the cockloft, and you would have missed that because the camera's not going to show you everything. You have insulation, which is a thermal barrier from what you can see. Eventually, that'll heat up enough to maybe see it, but it's a very, very inaccurate source of finding out where to open up. So get in there, get physical, get your hands on it, and open up. Don't worry about making too much damage or too much vandalism per se. It's a fire. Odor of wood burning, can't track it down. You have to look for it. You have to open up. On the floor above, make sure you're looking for pipe chases. Make sure you're opening up baseboards. So important we do this. Again, not vandalism. It's doing your job. As well as if you have the roof position, and I said this before on a podcast, where if you have the roof, you should be the last guy back on the rig every time. You have to make your position. Even if it's food on the stove on the first floor of a 6-story multiple dwelling or a tenement, you go to the roof and you hang out. Go over, feel the soil pipe. If it's cool, you're good. If it's warm, the fire's probably coming. If you touch it, it's hot. The fire's already in the cockloft at that point. I've seen this so many times where you have a fire on a lower floor, you take up, and next thing you know, the fire's in the cockloft. It doesn't happen on the norm, but it definitely happens. And this comes from firefighters not making their position. Roofman, you're going to the roof, you're hanging out, you're checking the soil pipe. If it was more than a food on the stove, maybe opening the dumbwaiter shaft on the top. Open up. This is why we're having small fires become big fires. It's as simple as that. We're scared to open up, and it's coming from not from the firefighters being scared. It's coming from your company level officers and all the way up the chain of command of not letting our men work. It comes from experience. And when you have individuals in charge with no experience of actually doing the work, we have a gray area. I'm not saying you have to go to a million fires to gain that experience, but it's understanding the job a little bit and understanding building construction, and it's understanding why we do things. Why are we carrying certain tools in the rig? And I guess that's all I really have for you today are some things that aren't really too often talked about on podcasts, or there's not really articles written about them. I talk about it in my class, Fire Academy, the Fire Floor, as well as my Truck Intellect. They kind of overlap a bit because it's a truck-based class, but just some basic common sense stuff. Wear your mask. Don't be the guy who takes it off, just sets the young guys up for failure. Wear it throughout the fire. Wear it longer than you ever expected you think you would wear. And if guys talk shit, guys talk shit. It's really, I think we're beyond that, to be honest with you. I don't think we're talking shit anymore. I think we're all kind of on the same page. And that's a really, really good thing. Overhaul. It's not opening up. Overhaul is very separate. Two different tasks or two different stages of a fire. Overhaul is after the fire has been knocked down. We've stopped fire travel. Fire travel, we're still opening up to look for fire. Two very, very different things. Keep that in mind. Don't be afraid, especially on searching for fire travel, to open everything up. Open up. Get everything open, take a look, see what you have. Open pipe chases on the floor above. On the roof, touch that soil pipe, get those dumbwaiter shafts open, and just do the right thing. Company pride truly, truly comes from the overhaul stage. That is the pride, the reputation of your company, and your character as an individual, as well as the senior members that taught you the right thing to do. So let's remain positive, let's remain motivated, and let's keep doing what we're doing, because I think that we're doing the right thing. Just keep doing what we're doing, because we're doing good things. Just remember, the devil's in the details in everything we do. I often say that the chessboard parallels the fireground, almost identically, in the sense where even a pawn moving into position is enough to set your army up for checkmate by following the details. All right, guys, I'm Mickey Farrell. Thanks for tuning in. Again, the Spaniard, West 4th Street, West Village, cool little spot for your neighborhood. Make sure you stop in and say hello. I'll be in Alabama this coming weekend with the Southern Alabama Hands-On Training Seminar with a great group of guys. So if you're in the Fairhope, Mobile area, be sure to look us up. We're out every night doing our thing. There's socials going on. It's a really, really fun time. Great brotherhood. Then I'll be in FDIC the following month. So if you're there, be sure to come up and say hello. I'm doing my class Truck Intellect. That's on Wednesday at 3:30. All right, guys. Again, thanks for the support. I'll talk to you soon.